Learn from the mistakes that others often make. Listen to Marketing Pains and don't go insane.
All right, Brian, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for having me. Honored.
Awesome. So tell me a little about what you do at the Dunstan Group. Give me the 20 seconds of what you create and who you all work with.
Yeah, so we are the Dunstan Group located right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been around for 15 years. We consider ourselves a branded merchandise and apparel company. To really kind of sum that up, we make your logo look great on a lot of different platforms, whether that's apparel, that's gifting, signage, you name it. Our goal is really to run a parallel path with your marketing team, but really be there as a resource to challenge you on the trends that we're seeing. And a lot of those have changed a lot over the last couple of years. So really from our perspective, the easy thing is we put logos on things, but right now, it's really more than that. It's really telling your marketing or your team's story and really expressing that through the mediums that we provide. And that's what our creative team loves to do. Get challenged, come up with unique and creative ideas, and really be there as a resource on this side of the desk because merch is fun, man, and it can be awesome. Especially if you give us enough time, a little bit more time. We say that's the only thing that holds us back from really creating something that not only you're proud of, but your employees are proud of, your clients are proud of, and it represents your brand the way that you want to.
That's awesome. All right, so talk to me about being like creative ideas. The kind of the theme of this podcast is creative and consistent branding. And I approach from the video side of things, but I'm sure you've seen these branding horror stories where they have one idea on their website, another idea on their t-shirt, and another random idea that the owner just came up with 2 seconds ago. So talk to me about how you create creative 3D ideas. I've been in your office. I've seen some of the really cool stuffed animals to t-shirts. Like, talk to me about why it's important to have a consistent brand across your all platforms. Why does that make a difference for brands to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we like to consider ourselves the brand police. And really around that, it's all about making sure that everything you put out there, whether that's digital, whether that's print, whether that's branded merch, it's not only consistent with your brand, but it follows how you want to be represented. Now, I will say a lot of organizations are now kind of testing the boundaries of what is really your brand guidelines, what can we do, what can we not do. But I will say a lot of the meetings that we have consistently, especially the larger organizations that might have 2,000, 2,500 employees, you might have a factory in, Mint Hill doing something completely different than the factory in Hickory. And that's not good, right? When you have customers that are coming in and you got apparel that looks completely different, there's no brand consistency. They haven't really partnered with somebody that's an expert in there to make sure that your PMS and Pantone colors are correct. And that just really it's representing your brand. So a lot of the things that we see with organizations, it's at first just kind of tightening that window, right? Let's figure out how we can consolidate everything into understanding what the vision is. And then really our job's also to kind of push the envelope, right? Like what's the new things out there? How are we doing things differently? And we've seen a lot of retro, a lot of vintage type designs come out where maybe an organization like a Duke Energy they never thought about doing something that was off brand, right? But maybe for a specific event, maybe for a nonprofit opportunity, maybe they're willing to kind of stretch that boundaries. And that's where we're here to showcase that and show you, what is possible in this day and age.
Nice. So you want to stretch the boundaries and then also stay within parameters so that people could still recognize it. Like, I know that's still Duke Energy, but that's a fun idea. I think it's going to cause engagement with this specific group of people that we're working with. Talk to me about maybe some of the fun, random things that you all have done, whether it's a plushie or whatever it is that you've done that you have seen really kind of reap some results for a client that maybe would be off color or off the book.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think in going back to the last question, I think, one of the biggest things that we look at is really what type of event is it? What type of outcome are we trying to achieve, really? So our team likes to reverse engineer anything that we're doing. Let's use an example from a trade show or you're going to a career fair. Well, really, nobody's asking the question, what are you trying to achieve at that career fair? Well, if it's a career fair, most likely you're trying to have conversations with college students or people that maybe aren't in college, but people that you want to come to your team. Handing out a journal and a pen and a tote bag is not going to, excite a 21-year-old. So really, what's the goal there? The goal is to have the conversation. So from there, once you understand what you're trying to achieve with the money you're trying to spend, we can come up with the creative ideas, not only the item that's a very functional piece, which is the most important. It cannot be thrown away. It needs to be something that people use. but then how do we decorate that, right? And so when you dive into that, a company uniform is going to be a lot different than if you're trying to do a corporate gift, right? And it could be the same exact item, but it's how do you decorate that, right? If you have somebody that's in the front of the house, maybe you want to have a logo right here that says Hickory Tavern, right? But if you're doing a Peterbilt R quarter set for a couple of your friends, I would recommend doing it really subtle on the sleeve, right? Create that gifting experience. So it all depends on the exact, opportunity. Now, when it comes into things that we've created that are fun, we've been very honored to be recognized nationally multiple different times on some really cool projects. And I think for us, it's so much more than just trying to be an order taker and say, oh, cool, you want power chargers, let's do it. And I'll use an example. So Duke Energy had contacted us about a year ago and they wanted to do about 500 power chargers for a nursing home up and down the coast where a hurricane could come. And I said, okay. So the goal here is if power goes out, they need a power source. Yeah. And I said, well, I think there's more than we can achieve than just doing a power charger. So our creative team went to work and created a private labeled item, which was it's a solar powered crank flashlight weather radio power charger, right? All in one. We private labeled the box, private labeled even the manual, and once we provided that to them, they're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, that's even better than we thought. They said, we need 7 samples. We sent them to all of the states that Duke Energy represents. And then before we know it, a $10,000 budget went up to $250,000 order, right? And the goal around that was, yeah, great. The budget went really high, but we showed them something that they never really thought about. And then taking it a next step and doing it more private label and creating something that's truly Duke. I mean, they came through and they did a whole case study and they sent an email out to every single, customer. And so you might have seen it, but and that was really cool to kind of just see what comes up. But we've done everything. I'm working right now on a 40-foot custom inflatable dog for a brand that their mascot's a dog. So they're going to have that next to a tent and some banners and stuff when they do events. And so for us, I always challenge my customers. And even if you're not a customer, what is the craziest idea you could think of? And then let us show you what we can do, right? Some of the best ideas come from a text message from a thrift store, hey, could we put our logo on this? And I might not know the answer every single time, but our creative team absolutely will find that. And, that's really the exciting thing for us is testing the boundaries. And then you think about our space in general, COVID changed the braided merch world. Before, it was very reaction, very transaction driven, well, I can do that for 50 cents cheaper than my competitor. Those days are kind of over, right? Now you're really starting to see companies really pay attention to eco-friendly. What are we doing to not only help the environment, but really what are we doing not to destroy it? You're seeing a lot of retail inspired brands not only come into our market, but the ability to take a Vineyard Vibes quarter zip and put your logo on it is a lot different than just taking some cheap, branded item, right? And so those things have changed a lot. But really, I think on our side of the desk, we're becoming more and more important to marketing companies, to marketing divisions and organizations, because your job is to do your job, right? You don't need to be coming up with these ideas. You don't have time to be going through 17,000 different websites saying, oh, I got to come up with something really creative. You can just shoot me an email. Our team takes care of it. And that's what we really pride ourselves on.
That's awesome. Dude, this 40-foot dog, where is that going to be in Charlotte or where is that going to be?
It is going to be in Charlotte. I can't tell you the
Okay.
client right now because it's not 100% done, but yeah, it will be in Charlotte. So when that is done, hopefully people will see that. But that's just
That's
one
awesome.
thing. We do everything, and we work with so many unique organizations. We're not segmented into one vertical. We're really more about the relationship. And the unique thing about our ability and really our industry, we can work with everyone, right? From restaurants
Yeah.
to professional sports teams to nonprofits, which is my most fun to work with. Any
Yeah.
way to raise awareness and do all that is always fun.
Yeah, that's so good when you see something really creative and off the cuff because I think sometimes we get caught in this rigmarole, especially, I've been doing a lot of trade shows lately. I've been traveling. I was just in California, and it's like everybody's doing the exact same thing. We went to our trade show.
Yes.
We brought 3 bottles of bourbon, and we started
There we
handing out
go.
bourbon. We got more cards than anybody. Which Brian and I met over bourbon, so it's like,
Yeah.
but we started just
Perfect.
3 bottles of bourbon. It was cheaper than it was like the best option for us then. And then we had mints too. We had branded mints.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
it was perfect. Like QR code on the mints. People were scanning those left and right. And then we did a raffle for bourbon. And we got more cards. We did this in Nashville and in California just now. And we were definitely the hottest booth in the trade show. These were small trade shows. So there was only a couple people to talk to, but everyone was coming to our booth.
This episode is brought to you by Suited, your marketing pain relief. Love our show? Get our turnkey dream podcast service and we'll handle editing, publishing, and finding your guests. Just hit record and we'll do the rest. Visit looksuited.com for details.
And it worked. We had a TV playing with some videos that I had shot, and then it worked. I was like, oh, this is great. So yeah, I think really thinking outside the box is what drives marketing. You know, my favorite quote from Grant Cardone is money follows attention. And I think when you're doing creative marketing, like you said, like you can't just get by with what everyone else is doing. The whole goal is to get someone to be like, oh, that looks cool. I think they can help solve my problem. And I think that's what the idea behind the creative process is. So that's really cool, man. I'm excited. What other fun
Yeah,
stories, man? You go ahead.
yeah, and to go on top of that, I think the most important thing I can say on this entire podcast is really understanding your purpose of an organization, right? What are we trying to tell through our medium, and our medium being Brandon Merchant Apparel? And I'll tell you a quick story. So we work with Cho Construction, and we did all of their holiday gifts, where that included custom packaging, the whole fulfillment around it, and we shipped these out to probably 200 of the names you want to be sending things to, right, in the Charlotte area, the Marcus Smiths of the world. And really we had to get creative on what we were going to send them. Now, they also wanted to do bourbon, which was awesome. But what we did through that story is Cho Construction, and we really nailed down to, okay, you guys are a big construction company. People have always seen your signs out there, but what do you guys really stand for? What do you do beyond making buildings and making money? And one thing we've been involved with them is an organization called Build Strong, which is a group that raises awareness for people who have autism. And you know, it's something that's very, you know, big to Choate, big to the people in Choate. And so they created an event, and they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost $1 million probably every year. They'll do this event down in South Park. And so we wanted to be able to share that story. Well, we work with a manufacturer in Asheville, North Carolina, that creates amazing products, and everybody that works in that organization that actually creates the product come from the spectrum, or some you know, autistic, or they've been involved obviously with having autism. And so we incorporated the story where we actually took these two really nice leather bourbon glasses. We branded actually on the inside Cho Construction and Build Strong, had those in the box. We also had the bottle of bourbon, and then we also incorporated a local candle manufacturer, put those all together. And then we created a QR code, which basically said, scan this video. And when you scan that video, this is where Cho took it to the next step. They had all of their leadership team and their owner create a personalized video to everybody that received these, and explain why they chose each product. I have never, in 7 years of doing this, gotten more of a response, not only from a client, but the ones that received that. I mean, we must have gotten 75 emails from principals, CEOs, directors of the biggest companies in Charlotte, taking their time and saying, wow, thank you so much, not only for the gift, but thank you for explaining why you guys are committed to this, what you guys are doing. And then in addition, raising more money for the next event, right? So like, could they have just thrown some bourbon in a bag and said, appreciate the business? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the next step is to really share that story of who you are as an organization. And as companies get bigger and companies grow, you understand that, you know, Gen Zs, they care more about what you're doing for the community than what their paycheck says. So if you're not telling that story, not only to your clients, then it's really difficult to not only bring in more people that want to work for you, but that's the gold right there. It's connecting everything and then marketing that through the medium. And that's the really exciting thing that we've seen, not only just with the product, but how are you decorating things, right? How are you doing something that nobody else is doing? And we can get into all that from private label and really where we think the whole world's going in that space. But that's the fun stuff. Like getting emails
Yeah.
back like that and nailing it, you're like, that's awesome. Because I know now I've been able to help Build Strong. And I'm not a guy that can write just a $10,000 check. But if I can bring them on my podcast and I can explain this and utilize our medium to support people, that's what makes me so excited about what I do.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story. I love that. I love how they're creating meaning through the marketing, and it's not just, hey, look at me. It's, hey, this is part of our brand. It's consistent. Again, it's that whole theme of being consistent. They weren't just shipping some random thing because they're like, hey, give me money. It's, hey, this is part of our ethos of who we are, and it ties in
Exactly.
to the overall story. And that's so much more fun to work with as a creative doing the video side of things when there's that thought process going into it. It's not just, hey, my name is Bob, come buy from me. Like
Right.
it makes people want to buy into your story and be a part of your winning idea. And it's so much more attractive than just, hey, look at me, come give to me. That kind of taker mentality that sometimes comes with marketing
Hmm.
instead of the giver mentality. I
Absolutely.
think that makes a huge difference when you are
Yeah.
thinking about your overall brand perception and just how you want to live your life. So, dude, all right. So we have,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So final thoughts. Anything you want to tie it up? We've hit our mark and over. Talk to
Yeah.
me about give me like one final statement about brand consistency and how you've seen it really help businesses grow.
Yeah, I think, when it comes down to it, it's really getting as creative as possible and really trying to push the limits of what we can do for your brand, but really how are you putting your brand out there, right? And I think no matter the organization that we talk to, whether it's a small barbecue joint all the way up into a massive organization like Atrium or Duke, everybody's asking the same questions, right? They're all dealing with the same issues. It doesn't matter what your budget is or how many employees you have. Everybody now is trying to understand, how are we going to tell this story? How can we stand out from everyone else? But I think really it comes down to people just want to be good people. They want to do the right thing. We're blessed to live in Charlotte, which I think is a city that's very big, but has a small town vibe. And I just love the organizations that try to give back. But there's so many creative ways to be able to do that. Right. And so I think the most important thing for people in their brands right now is you want things to be consistent, but you also need to, allow your marketing team to maybe push the envelope a little bit. You look right now from a trend standpoint, retro Zen, 80s themes, 90s themes. Some of the coolest t-shirts we've designed have literally been somebody sending us a t-shirt that might be like Space Jams from like the 1990s. And then we're incorporating that type of vision into what their logo is, right? So now we've taken that, we've got it on a t-shirt, we print it in a distressed look. It literally looks like the shirt was printed in 1990, but it's literally a brand and you've now created that for you, right? So like I think being consistent is key, but right now as we continue to grow, allow your marketing team to get creative. Allow them to show you some things that maybe you wouldn't be comfortable with 5 years ago, but I promise once they start to show you what you can do, it'll be creative. And that's where I think our team comes in. I mean, we're a very young organization. I'm 38 and everybody in our company is younger than me besides Scott Dunson, who's the owner. And so that's really what we strive to do. I mean, we have 3 merchandisers. Their entire job is just to find new product, right? So if you're
Yeah.
looking for something new, you're looking for different brands, we can absolutely help you out there. And the sky's the limit, man. It's such an exciting time to be in our world. But
Yeah, it is.
you got to be with somebody that kind of knows what they're doing, and we like to think we're one of those people.
Yeah. It's so funny because you mentioned the retro look, and I'm seeing that now on the production side. People
Yeah,
are going for that flash bulb, overexposed, high key look. And
right.
actually
Yeah,
I'm doing a product shoot in a week or two, and that's what we're going for. It's that high key, overexposed look from the '70s when no one knew how to use a flash. So it's like it's coming back, which is hilarious because we went through the '80s and '90s where everything was like super real 4K, and now it's like, how much can we blur this out and it still look good? It's
yeah.
so
It, it-
funny how
it's it's
trends change.
fascinating. It is
Yeah,
fascinating, and I mean, even if you walk down the light rail and you see somebody with like a Nirvana T-shirt, they probably have no idea who Nirvana is, but they probably spent $50 on that T-shirt and they think it's awesome.
that's hilarious.
So yeah, the trends have
Absolutely.
changed quickly in the last couple of years. But really, I think the main things that we've seen, color, style, decoration, and design are the biggest things, and really where you can push the envelope. If you're settling for just finding something online and printing a one color logo on it, you're missing the boat and you're missing massive opportunity. And if that's what you guys have in your company stores, or what I like to call the swag closet of shame, now is the time to change that. And one thing I think we really pride ourselves on is I'm very confident in telling you what not to do as well,
Yeah,
right? Like that's my
that's
job.
so
So
key.
if you're telling me, hey, I want to buy this, I'm gonna go, we might not have great experience with that factory. I really don't think this is going to be an item. Now, look, if you want to fight me for it, yeah, we'll do it. But the goal here is I don't want to put your logo or your story on anything that you're not going to be happy with. And it's why we have 100% guarantee at our company. Bottom line, we're here for the relationship and we want you to be happy. And if you never are, we take care of that. So,
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
the world of COVID and supply chain issues and everything else, you're only as good as something that gets delivered on time. And I think 80% of our job now is just making sure that that does happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I've committed to this year is to really ask questions to client, like, why are you spending money on that? Why are you doing that? Is that the best option? Because the last thing I want to do is give advice or create some content that really doesn't tie into what they're trying to do, and they end up wasting money. If you were to
Absolutely.
say, I mean, when you come to marketing, everyone's got some horror story of how they lost $10,000 or spent something money on something they shouldn't have, and it's like
Yep.
someone shouldn't have just tried to get a quick buck. Like they should have thought through the process and actually created content that benefit the company. I think that goes for branded content as well as media. But yeah, Brian, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate this. Was some really great thoughts. I'm definitely going to take some notes
Thank
off
you.
of this and apply it to my company. And awesome, Brian. Well, you have a good day. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Marketing Pains is a Suited Studios production and can watch and listen on all major podcast outlets. Staves off the pain. Use only as directed. Get your prescription at looksuited.com.